Our conversation for the next hour is we are seeing the Gen Z, the Gen Alpha, and they're being very, very active. Previously, we were talking about the millennials and are the millennials active in matters of governance and leadership, and how do we nurture them towards that. Now we've gone into the younger generations, the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas. How do we actually propel them into proper leaders in the future, in whatever sphere they are in? We're joined by a gentleman called Engineer Mike Mutungi. He is a founder of an organization called I Choose Life Kenya. He'll tell us more about it. But Engineer, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
How are you doing?
Very fine, thank you.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you. Yes.
Karibu sana to the hot seat of the situation.
Asante. I'm already feeling a bit hot.
It's been a long time coming.
I know.
Do you sing?
I know, but my wife is a musician.
Oh.
Yes.
Now, please, when you go back, tell your wife to sing happy birthday to very many people I'm seeing who I want to happy birthday. Including someone that you know very well called Becky Latiff. It's her birthday today.
Happy birthday, Becky.
Yes. Yeah. Plus a very, very good friend of ours also called Anna Maria Mwachinga. Okay. They share a birthday.
Yes.
Also, Anna Maria Mwachinga is celebrating her birthday today.
All right.
And she has authored a book. Yes. And she's actually launching that book today.
On her birthday.
On her birthday.
Yes.
Unaonaje hiyo maneno?
Hiyo ni sawa kabisa.
But I can attempt to sing for Becky happy birthday. Can I?
Yes.
Happy birthday, Becky. Happy birthday, Becky. Happy birthday, Becky. Happy birthday to you.
I like this man. I like this man.
What's an attempt?
Yeah, this guy can sing and he's also a very brave man.
Yeah.
You see, I don't have that courage.
That's the least I could do for her.
No, you've done well. Asante sana. Asante sana. Comments on social media asking this question. Okay, so there was a post that was posted yesterday by Senator Crystal Asige, who was talking about the goings on at the Standard Group and whether the Situation Room has been affected, and saying, Ndu has proceeded on leave. Is it true? Well, yes. We demand truth and accountability for the people that come here.
Yes. So we ourselves must subscribe.
Yes.
To the same dictum that we demand of other people.
Exactly. Yes. So yes, indeed, it is true so far that the management has decided to ask her to take leave, but it's a matter under consideration. Yes. We don't know why, but we shall wait to hear. City, why don't you welcome Engineer Mike with the day's proverb?
Yes, our proverb for the day and for the whole of this week have been from the Republic of Burundi. We are looking at proverbs from landlocked countries in Africa in the coming weeks. The previous weeks we were looking at island nations of Africa. Yes. Next week we'll be looking at Botswana. A bird cannot know where the sorghum is ready unless she flies.
A bird cannot know where the sorghum is ready unless she flies. What's your interpretation of this, Mike?
Well, that's quite deep, actually. I mean, it sounds like a very similar illustration about a ship is built to be in the sea, and if it continues to be is it on the beach?
If it continues docked on land.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So you gotta be out there looking for the sorghum in order to be able to discover where it is. And I think it's very late to Gen Z that sometimes we keep asking them what is the outcome of what they're doing. But I'm saying, just do what you need to do now. Don't ask me about the future. So I think it's very related to our current situation in the country.
Kabisa.
Yeah.
Very well done. Now, that's a good interpretation.
Yeah.
And putting it into perspective. Now, I Choose Life Kenya.
Yes, Africa actually.
It's I Choose Life Africa now. Okay.
Yes.
I Choose Life Africa.
Yes.
What's that?
I Choose Life Africa is a non-government organization that was registered in 2004 in Kenya, with the sole purpose. Actually, our vision is Healthy Africa, Empowered People. So really the goal is to see a healthy Africa and people are empowered in all kinds of areas, reducing poverty, getting rid of diseases, just complete empowerment of the African continent.
Yes. Why put it as I Choose Life?
It's actually, that's very perceptive of you. It's a very good question, and really goes back to how the organization started. It started when HIV prevalence was very high among the youth, but there was very little knowledge, and so we were very sensitive not to come out. We are pushing information to young people. We're basically saying we're going to provide you with all the information, all the skills, the capacity to be able to do what you need to do. But at the end of the day, we'll step back and you have to make that choice. It's your call. So I choose life. It is me choosing when I'm given all the information and being given all the skills that I need to be able to make that call. So it's a personal choice. Yeah.
So is it still about a conversation about HIV? Because it started at that point. That was a conversation then.
Yes.
And who are you targeting? Who do you target?
Yes.
As your audience?
Yeah. So we actually started working with university students, and around 2000, about 10. There's a lot of focus on university because university HIV prevalence, that cohort, the HIV prevalence was very high. But since then, we work in 6 development areas. We work in health, in education, environment and climate, leadership and governance, and entrepreneurship and employment, and safety and security. So we work in 6 areas now. We work in high school population, university and tertiary, but also young people. Our age is 10 to 34, so it's really expanded its scope.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now about leadership then. Because our conversation is about leadership today.
It's about leadership.
It's about looking at the younger population, this younger generation, the Gen Zs and their siblings, the Gen Alphas, and saying, how do we mold them into leadership?
Yes.
What's the perspective?
Yeah, so that's a big conversation about molding young people to become leaders. And as you know, our leadership models across the country isn't that positive. So we have a challenge is that in our education system doesn't quite address leadership skill building. As a whole. I mean, there's some attempts, but it's not adequate. So young people, basically what I have is that they have role models that are generally not quite what you would, particularly coming from the political environment. And so really young people are growing by themselves. And so they seem to have a lot of right now a sense of what is right and what's wrong, driven by what you see in the media. I think actually media personalities are a major influence as far as making decisions concerned. Yeah, so as I choose life, we are trying to fill in that space where then we are saying, what does a true leader look like? What are the characteristics? And how do you build the capacity to become a leader that is effective in the nation? And we're starting that from education sector, from secondary school, university, and so forth.
You said from the age of 13, you said?
From 10.
From 10?
Yeah, 10 to 34.
10, that's a good age. Because it's a question we always ask when we're talking about interventions.
Yes.
And we ask, so why is this thing not started at the time when young people are impressionable and they are willing to learn?
Yeah.
When they're a little older, they're more jaded and they'll be more reluctant to not just receive, but to also seek to understand because they'll have made up their minds.
Yeah.
But when one talks of leadership and you contextualize the times in which we live, don't you find it to be a daunting task?
It is. It's very daunting. But let me give you a story that happened yesterday, Muga, that even now when I think about it, it still gives me a bit of goose pimples. About 20 years ago, because we started the program in both high school and university. 20 years ago, I went with a team to Alliance Girls. And in those days, in the context of HIV prevalence was a major concern. So one of the things we were teaching was abstinence, the ABC, abstain, be faithful. And of course, if you're sexually active and you can't control yourself, you can use a condom. So that's a proven methodology of HIV prevention. So in the A, what we are doing is that we are asking the students to sign an abstinence card, where then you sign that you'll be faithful until you get married. You sign it, and that card you'll present to your husband or your spouse on the day of your wedding. So, I mean, I didn't believe that there were many people who would do it.
This is a man who's putting into practice something he doesn't fully believe.
Well,
but you said, well, let's explore.
Let's explore.
Yes.
So yesterday in my boardroom, we were discussing something with this lady. It was actually my second meeting with her, and there's a business venture we are getting into. Then she said, but Mike, about 20 years ago, you came to my school, I don't mention which school, and I signed my card. So I asked her, so did you actually wait until you were getting married and present your husband? She said, yes, that's what I did.
Yeah.
That was, and she was getting married. I don't know. I mean, that time she was in Form 3. She got married, much later, more than 15 years later. So you're right in that high school, it's a very impressionable age. And if you actually mentor and create the right values, at that age, they are likely to be able to stick to those values.
It's very odd that you should say that, because there's a biblical principle to it. Teach a young person the way that they should go, and when they're older,
yes,
they will not depart from it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Why I mention what I mention is this.
Yeah.
I look at the country that we have,
yes,
and we are presented with many groups of individuals who refer to themselves as leaders.
Yes.
They are leaders of sorts, yes, but the leaders that a country seeks is a leader that takes them in the direction of well-being and prosperity.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
But we have for some time now seen leaders who don't do that.
Yes.
They talk about it, but they don't.
Yes.
But the reason why they survive is because people follow them despite this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
So if one teaches these concepts of leadership at that early age, then the principle sticks.
Absolutely.
So one then has an understanding and saying, if I'm to think of wellness, well-being, and progress, and material well-being as well, these individuals are not the people who will take us there.
Absolutely. Yes.
Now, the question is, do you think that over time you've reached a large body of individuals who can subscribe to values that they can live by and challenge things that they know very well will be contrary to what they should live by?
Adequate, I don't think so, but I can tell you a bit of what we have done. And let me just begin by that dichotomy between what we call leader. In fact, I think it was just one of the media channels, a politician said, I am not a leader, I am a politician.
That was a very honest person.
He was. And I think even for them, they have come to realize there's a difference between being a politician and being a leader, and admitting that they are politicians and not leaders. Which in itself, it's a very bad, I think it's a very bad way of dichotomizing the issue. I think you should first be a leader, then you go into politics. But somehow I think they have all come to admit that their politicians are not leaders. So don't expect to hold them to account. But when I think about the closest for me that comes to what that looks like, what we are looking for, is the definition in Vision 2030, what you are aspiring to see. We were aspiring to have issue-based, people-centered, result-oriented leadership, politics. So somehow we need to reorient our vision as a country, and from Vision 2030 was always to have politics people-centered. So really it's about people. It's not about myself or positions, or it's about people. It's about results, service delivery, whether it's health, education, what are the services, and then results. Being able to hold people to account, being able to set clear benchmarks of results, and performance management being part of leadership. So from a Vision 2030, that's what it is. And so we need to reorient our politics towards that. And then we need to begin educating our young people towards that. Whether we've been able to do that as I Choose Life, now our vision is, our goal is that every 3 years we empower 1 million young people. every 3 years. So, and I can actually tell you, there are very few places that I will go and I will not find individuals who've been impacted by I Choose Life. If I was to say today, let me pull from KTN anybody who's been impacted by I Choose Life.
You will find some individuals, I'm certain.
Oh, actually, you probably not function as KTN. So they're everywhere. And, you know, some are doing well, some are, not doing so well. Some are in places that I cannot tell you for now.
Actually, Mike, it's called a life path.
Yes.
You all get the same message.
Yes.
Some get to the destination earlier than others.
Yeah, that's true.
It's the best way of looking at it.
Actually.
Yes.
Actually,
Some
yes.
stagger their way to it, some sprint
Yes.
towards it.
Yeah.
Some seem like they'll never get there.
Yes.
And then something happens.
Yeah.
And they eventually end
Absolutely.
up there. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm interested to know, when you are engaging with these young people from that age,
Yes.
10, let's say, into the adolescent years,
Yeah.
and you're having these conversations with them,
Yeah.
are you telling them about leadership, or just are you telling them about life in general? How do you package the message?
How do you package the message?
Yeah.
The acronym it's a training program. The acronym is SEALs, like the Navy SEALs. So they go through what we call the SEALs training. And so one is that we want to create an imagery. You know, the SEALs training program philosophy is that out of 100 people, you have 30 warriors. You don't know who the 30 are. But the goal of the program, the SEAL training, is to let the 70 drop off. Then you are left with the 30. So you make it so difficult.
So the 70 can go.
Yeah, so you make it, you give them opportunity to leave. So that's a philosophy for SEAL training, and it's very much character based. So there are certain core values we all the time we are trying to build as we give them difficult challenges. One is a value of faithfulness and integrity. You know, you have to be faithful to the task you're given.
Yeah.
And you have to do it with integrity. So we give them tasks that make them either succeed or fail. The second is about time management. You know, when you're given time and resources, how do you use that? The third one is about excellence. If you're given a task, are you going to excel in it? Are you going to do your best, very best? The next one is around teamwork. Are you able to work in a team? The next one is about participation. You know, are you able to involve and participate and get involved? And the last one is what we call netiquette. You know, in this day and age, you find that a lot of young people, you're in a meeting, they're in social media, they're in a laptop. So it's very competitive. There's an award at the end. Not only do they drop, but there's an award at the end. But if, for example, we are you're having they're put in groups, and the groups are competing all the time in every session. And if, for example, one of your team members is on their social media, the whole team loses points.
Everybody
pays a price.
Right.
So that's the training that they have to go. It's a 6 months training, and at the end of the day, then we have a graduation ceremony that they graduate, and we announce the teams that have won, and then the cohort that survives is the one that graduates.
What do they win? What do they win?
Or prices range. Could be financial, could be laptops, could be something that will help them to advance in their career. Yeah.
In those 20 years, Mike, and more that you have, worked with young people, can you actually look at a path and see it is because of the kind of interactions and engagement that they had in their younger years that they've become who they are? And how can you then connect those dots and tell us it's definitely because of these things that were happening in their teen and adolescent years?
You know, it's an excellent question, and I would say the answer is actually found in what they say, not even what I say. As a matter of fact, I'll just give you a few examples. I was talking with, and I hope she's okay me mentioning, I don't think they mind, Dr. Carol. She's Caroline. She's the founder and CEO of social impact agency in UK. And that organization works in about NGO for impact, for social impact, is in about 17 countries in the world. She lives in Manchester. And we were just chatting with her, and she was saying how what she's doing and impacting the world now from Manchester is based on principles she learned when she was at Maseno University as a student. Now she's doing amazing things. Another guy I was talking to is a guy called Sami Ndonga. Sami Ndonga is a founder of Samawati Capital. And again, I cannot tell you how much money Samawati is giving in terms of capital. But again, I still remember Sami when we were together at University of Nairobi in our program. He's one of those early individuals in the program. And he started his first business as a butchery in Kenyatta Market. Now, he's giving out money in billions. And again, him saying, you know, the things that I am implementing now in my business, it's what is those principles that I learned when I was at university and when I was going through the program. So, and I see a lot of people like that who, whenever we talk, they say, you know, it is those principles that we learned when we were in high school, when in university, that really has made me who I am. Even the career choice I've made, it's basically based on the influence of the program.
But then the thing is, did they have to come into contact with the program, with I Choose Life Africa and others, for them to get this kind of impact? Is it not possible for this to be a normal thing?
Possibly.
Why must they interact with, come into contact with a program? Why might they be lucky to come into contact with the program so then these things can happen in their life?
Well, you'd hope that this is, and our desire is that this becomes something that's available. Now, one of our goals really is to influence policy. And so even as we work with this, because really we are not government as I Choose Life, so we tried our very best to work with relevant ministries. So like we have a very strong program with the Ministry of Education. We introduced a mentorship program that's supposed to be instructing how mentorship needs to happen in high school. We launched that with the former CS for Education, Abbas and Amina Mohammed. And so that was supposed to introduce and strengthen mentorship in the education sector and strengthen that, because we realize that Eric, you know, there's what the teachers can be able to provide to students. But you know, as I keep telling both teachers and professors, is that, you know, a professor will only produce a professor. If you're gonna change the career trajectory of a young person, you need to have other people who speak to them from different backgrounds. We need to bring more professionals who can be able to interact with the education sector, create mentorship, and so forth. So like education, we work very closely with Ministry of Education to try to have those ideas put into the policy and therefore scaled to the rest of the education system. The same in health. So that's what we attempt to do. It doesn't always work as well as we would like to do. Right now, one of the things we are focusing on is there's been a lot of competition innovations in high school. You know, we have national competition innovation, but those innovations are not commercialized. They're not patented. So now we're working with the Ministry of Education to ensure that the high school innovations are patented and commercialized, and then have that as policy-driven initiatives.
You know, there's a process by which we make decisions that change our lives. There's always a process, the initiation of getting into contact with whatever variable it is, whether it's a person, whether it's an idea. And then there's always an incubation period. It's difficult to actually understand what exactly happens. But there are people who come into contact with an idea at a time when they're actually ready to receive it. As they hear it, they'll act on it. There are others who need something else to ignite it, maybe later on. But you see, Eric, the question you asked, very valid. There's also the upbringing of these individuals that comes into play. Somebody whose life has been difficult, the way their mind will be geared is when they see an opportunity that will alleviate the difficulties they have, they are likely to latch onto it a lot faster than somebody whose life has been simple and easy. Okay? So when you look at how it is that ideas impact people, Again, let's go back to the discussion about the Gen Zs. You cannot remove the impact that the life we are living and the impact it has had on the parents of the Gen Zs. You can't say it has not influenced the Gen Zs in the way they go about their business.
Yeah.
Because it's a lived reality.
Yeah.
When the economic difficulties impact the parents,
Yes.
it also impacts the Gen Zs.
Yeah.
But then there's also the impact that the education that they are afforded. One, two, the times in which they live in and the freedoms that we now enjoy, which previously were not there when we were young.
Yeah.
So when you combine all these things,
Yes.
you then have this potent force that realizes that, I do have the freedom to actually speak.
Yes.
I do have the freedom to act.
Yes.
But this group has done something that no other group has emphasized. Not haven't done, emphasized.
Yeah.
We will do this within the law.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they never deviate from it.
Yes.
And they emphasize it.
And in fact, even bringing out the law that they're quoting, they're not just saying it, it's the law.
Sharia,
said.
generally.
Yes.
This particular piece of legislation
Yes.
says this.
Yeah.
Can you do it? In accordance with the law? Hey, bwana. Did you imagine that you would see something like that?
No, I never imagined. Actually, for me, this completely. We work with them every day.
Yeah.
Like today, we're gonna be even having university students, but I never saw it coming. Completely. But this is what I would like to just say to Gen Z. One is that, their vision and their dreams are very valid. I think most of us see what they're doing and our hearts are warm because we identify with it 100%. It's just that maybe I do not have the courage sadly to do that. So their dreams are very valid, and I think the country is behind them. The second thing I would also like to say is that this generation, they're the biggest population globally, and in Kenya, around 33%, and they're unstoppable in several ways. One is that in Africa, by 2050, 1 out of every 4 people globally will be African. 1 out of every 3 working people will be African.
Wow.
So Africa will rule the world.
By 20, what again?
By 2050.
I'm trying to figure out whether I'm going to be alive then.
You'll be here. You'll just be in the minority.
Yeah. Maybe the 1%.
You'll be absolute minority. But you'll be here.
You'll be here. So Africa will rule the world, whether the world likes it or not. And so for me, I think, Eric, is whether I was prepared or not, this is our time as Africa. This is their time. And instead of us trying to figure out how to bring them down, first to crocodiles are unstoppable.
Yeah.
They will take over the world. Africa will take over the world. Our best responsibility is to ask ourselves, how can we best equip them to provide global leadership in the most effective manner? To be able to look back and say, yes, the past generations and continents that have provided leadership in the world were not as responsible as they should have been in issues of the planet, in issues of resources. But this generation, if we prepare them well, with the courage they have, we will have a very good world. And with that, I feel like I can exit this world with a smile on my face.
What's interesting, though?
Yes.
Is that just a couple of years back, people were talking about the millennials.
Yes.
Millennials getting into the workplace.
Yes.
And the attitudes of the millennials.
Yes.
And there was a lot of negativity associated with it.
In the workplace.
These guys, they are the microwave generation.
Yes.
They want things now. They want, they assume just because they've started working, so they should now drive the most expensive car, which means that they are coming to the workplace and they want to be paid 150,000 shillings as first salary.
Yes.
And that is close to the salary of, in fact, it's more than the salary of their supervisor.
Yes.
And, there was all that.
It was very negative.
And then we now switch it and say, okay, these guys actually have a point.
They have a point.
How do we marry those two? Are we saying that the millennials and the Gen Zs are very different from the millennials in terms of, because they're actually showing that they want their things faster now?
Yes.
Mr. President, do not fire those guys next week, fire them now.
Yes.
no, do not appoint, no, now. You know?
Yeah. Yes.
It's a microwave mentality,
Yes.
but now in governance, and
Yeah.
we seem to accept it.
We seem to accept it, and I think for us, we've been carried away by what I call paralysis of analysis. For them, they see the end result and they want the results. Don't give us all the long stories about, how it's not possible and so forth, which I think is what we need. And when you hear them saying, look, don't call us for meetings. Don't call us for what are we discussing. If there's corruption, get rid of corruption. If you've got the wrong guys being appointed, don't just appoint the wrong guys. And I think that's the right mindset we need to have so that we are not getting lost in a lot of discussions, but we are more effective in utilization of our time and resources. So the question, I think, is how do they now translate what would all want to see within the bounds of constitution to reality? I think that's the big question that they have to wrestle with and we have to wrestle with.
Consider for a second everything that they have said.
Yes.
We would like you to do this.
Yes.
We would like you to change this.
Yes.
That's an acknowledgement that you have the authority to make these changes.
That's true.
You see this? Let's not miss this in the conversation.
Yes.
They are saying, if there are people who aren't working, remove them.
Yes.
Further acknowledgement that you have the authority.
Yes.
Is there anything that they have spoken of that cannot be done by the executive?
In my view, none.
Precisely. So it is not unreasonable. The question they were asking, and it's not even disrespectful.
No.
They are actually saying, you are the one who has the mandate, please carry it out.
Yes.
You see?
Yes.
Now, if you cannot carry it out and you have the mandate and you also played a part in making it happen, then what then should we say about the leadership that we gave you to function on our behalf?
And your competence.
Yes, exactly. Precisely, because there's nothing. There's a discussion that envelopes us.
This is just performance review.
Yes.
You are sitting with your boss.
Yes. And he's telling you.
You are supposed to do this, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Your job description says you do this, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Right?
Yes.
Have you done it? No. Okay.
Yes.
Can you do it within the next 1 week?
Please. Yes.
Come back.
Yeah.
Have you done it? No. Okay.
So, Chief, I gave you this job. What did you understand I meant when I gave you this job? Or what do you think I expect when I say this is what we would like? And then you agree with me.
Yes.
You could have disagreed then and said, no, this one I'm not going to do. But you agreed. And now I'm asking you just to do what we agreed you would do. And then you're telling me you're going to do it, but I still don't see you doing it.
Yes.
So what am I supposed to do with you?
Fire you.
Well, you cannot get me out of office, because if you get me out of office, then you have nobody sitting in this office. You see?
But they were
And
saying,
that brings in anarchy.
Yes.
Because then you'll have an empty office.
Yes.
And if KRA come and they ask you how many employees do you have, then you will not have one less.
Yes.
And how do you answer?
Say, okay, we've understood. What you said in mitigation, we understand. Okay, now, can you do what we asked you in the first place? Please. Let's not complicate it. We're not adding anything more. The very thing we asked you to do when you gave us this contract, we're asking you, just fulfill it. That's it.
Yeah. Actually, that's what they're asking.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then Mike brings in this other conversation. And this is coming now from, of course, the older generation who claim to have the wisdom of age and time. And that, you know what, if you demand of these things too fast, if you ask some of these things, you will lead to anarchy.
Yes.
You may push towards the path of anarchy.
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
No, I was actually offended by one interview that I saw Gen Z being interviewed, and they kept being pinned at, you cannot, if you're asking somebody, an individual, whether members of parliament, to leave position, what is the answer you're providing? I don't think that's a responsibility. Actually, Muga is very right. That should never be their responsibility. And the Constitution provides, processes and how to go about things. So, for example, if a member of parliament has not performed, we need to have a corporate approach, just the way we manage corporate. If you come, you are praised. Are you not?
Yes.
You're praised.
Yes.
And that's what every Kenyan who is working does. They are praised in their work. And there are consequences to lack of performance. And, the boss doesn't sit and wait and say, if Eric is non-performing, I cannot fire him because I don't know what I'm going to do. we deal with Eric. If he needs to be fired, if he gets fired or resigns, then we cross a bridge of how to hire the next. He hands over, and then we hire the next person. The Constitution has also provided for all the positions, whether as a member of parliament. If recall you, I think there's a process to it, and then there's a process of how a new member of parliament. All the position there is that. So I think we need to focus on, have you delivered on your job? And if you have not, you do the honorable thing and you are gotten out. And then, the Constitution kicks in terms of what happens. I think, the position is very clearly defined.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there going to be a change between what we are seeing now heading into future elections and what we saw, for example, in 2022? Not, for example, specifically in 2022.
Yes.
In 2022, the IEBC said, we have talked to the department in charge of registration of persons.
Yes.
And the statistics are telling us that people who have turned 18 since 2017 are this many. Those that have IDs and therefore are eligible or don't have IDs but should get IDs and eligible to register as voters are this many.
Yes.
And we are opening up this exercise for them to come and register as voters. Not many of them ended up registering.
Yes.
Not many even of those that registered ended up voting.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So there was that, whatever happened then.
Yeah.
Are we going to see a difference into the next one? And what is this that is going to propel it? I'm going to give you that with the example of what we saw in the Nigerian election.
Yes.
The last Nigerian election, there was a lot of conversation online.
Yes.
About the youth registering to vote.
Yes.
And I think 80 million of them registered to vote, right? But those that ended up voting were just merely 30 million. An entire 50 million did not, but they were very active on social media.
Think they celebrated
and they had and they had a candidate, and they said, "This is our guy."
80 million.
Right. The guy who ended up winning.
Yes.
If you look at the entire population of the registered voters, he won with a minority, an absolute minority. Not even
That's unfortunate.
So how do we avoid the Nigeria situation?
So 2 quick ones. I think people have argued, first, we need to have voters' cards if you have your ID. Why? Because, that is usually an opportunity for monkey business right there. So one would be simplifying that process and say if you've got an ID, then that should be sufficient to make you a voter. But the second thing is that I would like to suggest to Gen Z, they need to have now a phrase, Anguka na 2027. They need to Anguka with all the positions and create a roadmap now. How do we make sure that we have the right kind of leadership in 2027? Because it's not going to happen by people wishing. There's going to be a roadmap that developed. There has to be, even for them, just because you're Gen Z, it doesn't guarantee you to be a good leader. There has to be a way of identifying and vetting the right leadership based on competence, based on achievements. Integrity. You vet. One of the things that we'll be launching ourselves is a platform in the next 2 or 3 months that empowers, it's a tool to help that vetting process. Because you can imagine, and I vote all the time, and I've tried to do this, and mobilize that even in my own county. For every position, you have, actually in my ward, there were about 17 aspirants for MCA position. How do you decide which one? 17. So there has to be a way of, profiling the individuals, putting them just the way you have debates where they are brought, before the people, the voters, and you are able to interrogate them to be able to differentiate which one would be the best candidate.
But Mike, this has happened in the last election.
Yes.
We had in this studio people from Langat and some from the South Sea area. I don't know which constituency it is.
Yes.
Or they were calling the would-be candidates.
Yes.
Oh, yes, and they were having a discussion about them.
Yes.
And they were seeking a social contract.
Yeah.
They're not just letting them get away with, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
So it started.
Yes,
but what we are seeing now is now a jolt. This is not just a shot in the arm. This is a jolt.
Yes.
And it's taking this whole vetting. Forget this parliamentary gimmickry that we've been seeing.
Yes.
The entire process of actually vetting and figuring out, are you really suitable for this job? Yes.
We need to take that to another level.
But not just suitable.
Yeah.
We have to understand and agree that we are going to be revising this contract and we're going to be revisiting it with this level of frequency.
Yes. Quarterly.
We are tracking your performance.
We are tracking your performance.
Managing, yes.
If we end up giving you the job. I hosted an X-Space last night around this conversation around the vetting. And the question was the integrity question, right?
Yes.
And actually one of the people who joined and spoke said, I think the first qualification for public office should be integrity.
Yes.
And these other things can come in.
That's
we can then ask you, okay, so do you have a degree? Do you have
how much money do you have?
The first question should be integrity.
Yeah.
Now then, Mike, how do we determine integrity?
How do you choose integrity?
How do you know that this one has integrity?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you how that has played off. Because, as I said, this actual idea about vetting and social contract, we were the initiators of that 10 years ago. I actually wrote a book, Kenya Mpya, just after the new constitution. And it sort of put all these ideas in place, how you go about this. So we tried in several counties. We did that in Machakos. We did this in Kibera. We did in Eldoret, several sub-counties. And so we were looking at three things. The one was character. The second was issue about competence. And the third one was your past achievement. And the approach was, you look at Kenya as a company limited, and you are trying to hire a CEO, and then, to hire the executive. The same way you interrogate employees. Yeah. So the issue of character, what I tended to see is that people project they are clean. But I remember one case, some interview going on, and, a citizen saying, but you stole land from so-and-so just the other day. So, you're coming to tell us about integrity. So citizens are, if you give them opportunity, they will come out and they will speak up. So I think what we need to create a platform where you've got the aspirants and you've got the citizens who live with this particular individual who already interact with them on a day-to-day basis.
Raise those issues.
Yes, raise the issues.
You stole someone's land, umepitisha mpaka by 1 meter.
Umepanda miti, mita moja into someone's compound.
Exactly.
You were engaged in domestic violence, GBV, all those kind of things. You have cases of sexual assault.
Yeah.
Those ones come up.
Yes.
You are a liar. You are not to be. Wewe ulikuwa chairman wa Munada, ulidanganya watu.
Why what you're saying makes a lot of sense. This integrity is not just a question of your social behavior, but the property goes into just conduct. If you're dishonest in one area of your life, chances are you're going to be dishonest in others.
It's true. Absolutely.
So, and now imagine when you're given a high office with a responsibility.
Yes.
And you're given what we'll have done is expanded the opportunity for your misbehavior. Yes. We'll have given you new horizons.
Yes.
Yes. And we are seeing it.
Yeah.
How does somebody claim to have made more money, and yet we don't ask them how they made the money?
Yes.
100 million shillings in 2 years. Hiya.
Yeah.
What business is this that you're doing?
Yes.
Other people who had that same amount of money and are business people, if we ask them,
yes,
this is the amount of money you had last year.
If you ask EABL, a big company,
huge,
right? In terms of their revenues between 2022 and 2024, have they grown by 50%?
They've dropped.
Okay, so
ask any big yes. So these people who we are now vetting, they just seem to be making more and more money. What is this thing that they're doing? Can they lend that wisdom to the economy? The economy can also grow.
They're serving the nation.
We get that.
You see, when you serve the nation, other things pour in as blessings. Mike, thank you for coming in. You are blessed for serving the people. Engineer Mike Mutungi has been our guest. He was the founder of I Choose Life Africa. We've been talking about leadership for the younger generation. How do we nurture them? How do they grow into into leadership in whatever sphere of life? Keep it here for more conversations.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.